Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. Success isn't about how much money you make. It's about the difference you make in others' life. Very well said by Michelle Obama. When one achieves success, they ignite a flame of possibility that inspires and motivates others around them. It serves as a reminder of what can be accomplished through perseverance and dedication. Successful individuals naturally become role models, using their experience to guide others towards their own unique goals and dreams. Today's Changemaker is an arrangement of YSSE with individuals to enlighten our youth society. In this program, we listen to their stories, struggles, and achievements. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Sadia Ahmed, Management Trainee at Communication Department at YSSE. Welcome to our today's entertainment. With us, we have an elite person and award-winning development practitioner, mental health advocate, and founder of Inclusion, Shamsin Ahmed. Good
Thank
evening,
you for
ma'am.
inviting.
Welcome to our show. How are you doing,
Thank you so
ma'am?
much for inviting me. I'm good. I'm great. Thank you so much.
Ca- Can you please kindly tell us about you from you?
Right, sure. So I run Identity Inclusion. Identity Inclusion is a small social business, you can say. We call it a social business because we do consultancy services and we work as disability inclusion consultants. And the revenues from what we get from the consultancy services are reinvested into providing psychosocial support to people with mental illness or severe disabilities. And we try to kind of help individuals through psychosocial support to be included into society. So the people we support through the psychosocial support are usually people with who have been stigmatized or discriminated, cannot go to school, do not work, are not employed, and they are home. They don't have any, and they're socially isolated. They don't have friends. Those are the kind of people we support through psychosocial support. And we work mostly through the youth. We train youths every year to provide psychosocial support. We train them on psychosocial support skills, and then they work with these individuals and they try to help them be included into society again by becoming their friends, by becoming caretakers. And in that way, we're trying to also build the care economy of Bangladesh through utilizing the demographic of our youth. As we know, our youths are constitute a huge population of Bangladesh. They constitute about 30% of our entire population. And so the work started in 2015 as a project and till date, we've been working for over 7 years now, and we've been also running support group meetings. We're even going to have one this Saturday, and it's an open, confidential space for anybody to join, where there's also a mental health professional. So our the main focus of our work is to kind of work on addressing the social determinants of mental health, which is injustice, inequality. So these are the kind of work that we're doing. We also do a lot of advocacy, and we do capacity buildings as well. We kind of train people and make people aware about mental health issues and how they can address it as members of society. So we do a lot of social work, and that's how we are kind of like a social business. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, ma'am. So I wanted to know mental health is a very sensitive topic to all. So how did you think of becoming a mental health advocate? Like, was it difficult in your starting days? What was the biggest challenge you apart from starting?
Yes, it was. It was actually very hard because, first of all, when I started out, I myself did not understand how this can be a community, there can be a community based service for mental health conditions, because it seemed like such a complex thing, and it seemed like a very sensitive topic. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And because I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I wasn't aware of what I could do about it. But there's a personal backstory behind why I started. I have a family member. My own elder sister has schizophrenia, and it was through her experience that I had like a really close understanding of what happens when somebody has a mental illness, and how it develops through discrimination and exclusion. She was excluded from school, and that is why she eventually developed schizophrenia. And from that experience, I wanted to do something. And when I wanted to, but I had no idea what I was going to do. And I was very young when I started identity inclusion as a project. So before that, I did a lot of research. I found out about a course which was called Leadership in Mental Health Systems Development, which was under the James P. Grant School of Public Health under Brack University. Through that course, I came to know about community-based mental health services, and that through that course, I was also able to reach a lot of professionals. And so I reached out to them and I said, I want to start something. I want to do a community-based service. And initially, people were like, "Oh, it's complicated. Maybe you cannot. Like, how are you going to start? How are you going to even reach people? Because it's something no one wants to talk about." So it was very difficult, but then we started support group meetings, and I opened a page, and I announced that I would be taking volunteers. I would get them trained through Dhaka University Educational Counseling Psychology Department, and we started a support group meeting, which was one of our first activities. And that's because it's a confidential space. We've never published any pictures. We don't document anything about it anywhere. And we what we do is we made sure that it was a very safe space for people. And slowly people started coming and joining, and they started talking about mental health. So even though initially this was a huge taboo issue, and it still is, I feel like even after the pandemic, there and now that there are so many mental health projects and organizations working on mental health, this is still something that is very stigmatized. And so it was very hard, it is still very hard to talk about it and talk about social determinants of mental health, because that is also a very new concept. But what we are doing is we do a lot of trainings and awareness raising because of that, so that we can make people more aware and create more spaces for people to keep talking about their mental health condition.
It's a great thing that you don't document anything or like you don't record it. So it, the people more freedom to talk about their thoughts out without getting worried about anything impacted. Okay. And identity conclusion provides psychological volunteer support. How do you choose them?
Right. So every year we select 10 youth volunteers. Now we're increasing that number and we're reaching more people because we want to provide more of the social support service. So what we do every year is we circulate on our pages and our groups that we are looking for people who are interested to do social work. And it doesn't matter which background they are, they don't have to be from the psychology background because we're going to train them anyways. And the kind of work they're going to do is that they're not going to provide counseling or they're not going to provide any psychiatric service. So they don't need to be of that background. What they need to do is to be inclusive, and they need those moral values, and they need to be able be willing to work with us, work with people with vulnerable populations. So through our pages we circulate, and then our previous volunteers also kind of like they are dedicated, they take the work very seriously, so they also circulate about this. And then they what we do is we recruit these volunteers, we interview them, and then we train them on psychosocial support skills, and then we tag them with families. So, and they have to remain committed to this work for at least 6 months, and then they get a certificate of both the skills and the experience that they receive from working with us. And that is how we reach out to people, that is how we reach out to the youths. And so if you would like, you can check out our page and you'll see that even a few days ago we put out a recruitment post about recruiting volunteers. And I think this is a huge opportunity for our volunteers, for youths to work with us, to work on society and to kind of develop our society and make it more inclusive.
So if I want to apply in your support, can you do that?
Yeah, sure. You can just get on our page. You'll see that our email address is given. You can send us your CV. We would love to have you on board, of course.
I'm gonna check that out. Thank you for the invitation. Okay, ma'am. So my next question is, how do you train the volunteers? Like who's train it? Or do you need any help? Do you help with that, or do they have any special categories, courses to understand the patient or the work?
Right. So, like I've mentioned, we do provide the psychosocial support skill training, and so this training basically consists of basic counseling skills. But these, that's like I mentioned, we don't do this so that they are going to provide counseling. They are not. But very important skills like active listening, providing active feedback, giving non-judgmental feedback, or being non-judgmental, because when you're supporting somebody who is vulnerable, who has a mental health condition, you cannot be judgmental, or you cannot express really strong opinions. You have to be open to different kinds of opinions, different kinds of situations, and you really want to support others. And so it's very important that youths have the skill to do this, that they have communication skills. So essentially it is communication skills for them, and this skill is very important in all spheres of our life. And we essentially want that too, that once they get this training, they can also, this actually helps them in their life as well, because what it eventually does, it makes them inclusive leaders. And the exposure to vulnerable people and their experience really changes how they think about others. So most of us, we go to school and we never ask, or we never think that, why did a disabled person not go to my school? I didn't have friends who have a disability when I was going to school. We don't ask that question. But and if we did, we would find out that these people are often hidden or stigmatized, or they're isolated from society, and that's a huge injustice to them. And that can also lead to mental health conditions, and it makes our society very exclusive and discriminatory, unequal. It creates a lot of problems even among us, because we it causes us to be very indifferent, apathetic to the struggles of others, and you really can't function as a society in that way, or there's going to be a lot of issues. which we do have as a very conservative society, a very ableist society. And so it's very important that those who work with us have this training. And it was what really helped us was in building such a society is that their young people are very enthusiastic about working. They want the experience of volunteering, they want to help others, and that has also encouraged us and motivated us to give them that opportunity to work with others. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Sadia. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I can hear you now.
Questions from the comment section.
Sorry, I missed that. Can you please repeat the
Hello,
question? Right.
are you hearing me now, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, sorry
Yes,
for
I
the
can hear you now.
inconvenience. Can we take some questions?
Sorry, I missed the last question. I couldn't hear you properly.
I asked, can we take some questions from the comment section now?
Sure.
Yeah. So there is a question. Sadia Akhtar asked if is it possible to get connected through online?
Is it possible to work or to get connected online? Of course, we do have volunteers who work online, especially during the pandemic. It was everything was online, and so what if people are interested, they can write, they can create content for us and work with us on the social determinants. So one of the things we had to do during the pandemic was to also provide psychosocial support online. But we're not doing that online anymore. The advocacy parts of what we do, or the capacity building, even raising awareness, that kind of work we still do online. So if you are interested in joining us and working with us online, we'd be happy to have you. If you can send us CV, what we usually do is to talk about real current issues and situations where people are facing discrimination. It can be gender based, it can be religious extremism, it can be anything really. Whenever there is an unjust society or an unjust situation, we encourage young people to talk about it, and we want them to come forward and talk about it so they can, if they can write about it and how it affects their mental health and essentially the psychology of society. That is something that we work on, and so if anyone's interested in joining us and working with us online, that's also possible.
Okay. Then Syed Samin Yasser asks, what is the most challenging aspect of being a change maker in Bangladesh, and how do you overcome those challenges?
Well, there are many challenges, and one is, of course, resources. So as a young person, it was very hard to get resources. I did not have any institutional support when I started, so it was just me and a friend who opened a page. We reach out to people, we reach out to organizations, There was no funding when we started. So this was 2015 when we started our organization, and mental health was not a popular topic back then, and no one was working on it. So we did not have funds for it. We used our own savings. So finance resources and even technical resources, having getting, if you want people like with a lot of technical skills to support you, you need to hire them, and that requires funding as well. So we used a lot of our own savings initially, but then we also applied for funds like the EMK Center, and they gave us our first grant, with which in 2016 we were able to train people. We did a training of trainers. So to be a change, I wouldn't. I hope we're making some changes, but I'm not so confident about being a change maker. But whatever changes we're doing, it's first of all acknowledging that, the way in which we work is to change attitudes, and changing attitudes is really hard. It's a lot harder than just providing a basic service, like, somebody needs money, giving them loans. That's still something that somebody needs, and they're coming to get it from you. But with mental health, it's a very because it's such a sensitive topic, this required us to really change mindsets. And so when I start thinking about it, the reason why it was so hard to start it and to continue is that it is has a lot to do with changing mindsets, and it's very hard to change mindsets. But when people have personal experiences, then that does change their perspective, and which is why we emphasize so much on having young people work with people with mental illness and disability, and provide direct psychosocial support, because that personal contact changes attitudes. And so one of the challenges was that this is such a stigmatized issue that no one wants to talk about it, and are not seeking their support. But what we are doing is doing a lot of capacity building, a lot of trainings, a lot of awareness raising, and that is something which each change maker, whoever you are, you have to keep in mind that this is not a it's not a quick fix. It's not There's no easy way of doing this. There's no silver bullet. It is hard, it is going to take time, and real impact, real changes take time. And so if you have that in your head, then you don't get frustrated too easily. So but it's very easy to get frustrated. There have been times when I've been frustrated. I felt like a failure, but it's because the changes were happening very slowly. But I think if you're sure enough of what you're doing, if you are willing to learn, then you can still manage. You can keep working towards what you believe in, and that has helped me overcome all these challenges.
Okay. Another question from Azmir Alam. What motivated you most to build such a wonderful platform
So it was a very personal experience that motivated me. And I talked about it a bit in the beginning. My own elder sister, she has epilepsy, which is a neurological condition where somebody has seizures frequently, and this did not disturb, or this did not disrupt her education for a long time. She studied till grade 9, but in grade 9, the school that she went to did not understand epilepsy, did not know how to handle her condition, and they asked her to discontinue going to school. And no other schools would admit her into their own school, or no other schools would enroll her. And this led to her being isolated. Her education stopped. She had no friends, and eventually she developed schizophrenia. And so from that experience, I saw that, there's this isolation, this discrimination, this injustice that she was facing led to her developing a mental illness. And that motivated me to think about what I can do. But when this was happening, because she's my eldest sister, I was very young when this was happening, I didn't know what to do about it. I learned later about how to set up a development program, how to run a project, how to find resources, allocate resources, and I learned project management when I was working at BRAC after my undergrad. And with those understanding, with those skills, I was able to start my own project. So the motivation was very personal, but it was also professional as well. So when I was working at BRAC at the Social Innovation Lab, I realized that people are not sensitized about disability inclusion. People don't even know how to institutionalize this. There's no People don't have an understanding that this is something where you can that has community influence, or you can provide community based service. People only think of mental illness as something where you can go to a counselor or a psychiatrist to solve it. But a psychiatrist can only give you medication, can only counsel you. But the lifestyle changes that is needed for people to deal with mental health conditions require more service than that. And that service doesn't exist in Bangladesh. So that also motivated me, like, not knowing that there was a problem that I could solve, maybe, or I can at least try to solve. Um, that motivated me to start my own organization, my own project.
Okay. Next question we have Rakat Pathan. Apu, what soft skills are must or any other academic qualifications?
So to be a psychosocial support volunteer, you don't necessarily need any academic qualifications. What we have is that you do need soft skills, and that soft skill training we provide. So what we're calling psychosocial support skill trainings and is basic communication skills training, where you listen actively, you don't non-judgmental listening, active feedback. Those are the soft skills that we're training that we provide to our volunteers, and we do this for free, and then they can apply it to provide psychosocial support.
Okay. Next question we have Muhammadul Shafin. Do you believe that self-motivation and mental health are related?
Well, it is, self motivation is a part of mental health. Very broadly, if you think about it really broadly, then of course, so mental health is your mental health situation, part of which is about how self motivated are you. So somebody with good mental health has a good is able to interact with people, has good social relationships, they're able to do productive work. And if you're not self motivated to do any of those things, then of course you're not going to be able to do any productive work. You're not going to be able to contribute to society. So they are related, and they do impact each other. So if your self motivation event essentially means that you are confident and you can deal with adversities in your life. So yes, they are related.
Okay, now let me ask my question. So, what what one should do? Like, I like to help others, but I can't help myself. So, what can I do in that situation?
Helping others will also help you and your own mental health, because when we help others, it actually gives us a good feeling about ourselves, that you see that you are being of use to somebody else, and when that person is happy, that will make you happy as well. It's a very fulfilling feeling. And we are because we are social animals, we actually like socializing and helping each other as well. So we also have that inherently within us, to be of use to each other. So if you help others, it will help you as well. It will give you fulfilling feeling, and it will make you confident about what you are and of your value in society. I think that inherently helps you be a better person, and also makes you feel good as well.
So, it should not be a bother if I'm not happy, but still I'm doing things to make people happy.
So we need to be careful about helping others, especially when it comes to mental illness, for example. So, and it's very hard for us as general people to understand when somebody is going through a severe condition. But I think what is most important, especially from the work we do, that we realize is that people often trivialize mental health conditions. So, say, we often think people who talk about suicide or people who are or say, I have depression, they're just seeking attention. I think we've seen this a lot, that people don't take these things seriously or they think it's attention seeking. But we should always be willing to help people, especially when we feel that this person might be struggling mentally. We should not trivialize their pain or think that, this person is just seeking attention. Even if they're seeking attention, it means that they are struggling mentally somewhere through low self confidence or self consciousness. In all those ways, they're probably struggling, which is why they need help. And so we should be willing to help people, no matter what their condition is or what they're saying. We need to be careful of mental health issues, because oftentimes people are seeking help, but others are not paying attention. So it's very important to observe if we want to help somebody, and we can guide people. And if we think that, okay, I'm this person is constantly sad or constantly upset, I don't know how to handle it, I'm not confident about it, or if somebody is talking about suicide and you don't know how to respond, you can refer them to others, or you can refer them to services like 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬. You can refer them to support group meetings like ours. We have support group meetings every month at the last Saturday of every month from 3 to 5 p.m., where anybody can come and they can share whatever is bothering them mentally. And there's always a mental health professional at that session. So, yeah, so there's a lot of services that we provide where you can reach out. So if you're somebody who's struggling, or if you know somebody who's struggling, please do pay attention to them, observe them, and refer them. If you can't, if you feel that you cannot support them, you can always refer them, because now there's a lot of mental health services available. But it's we need to take that step and not brush them off as just attention seeking.
Okay, very well said, ma'am. So we just went through a COVID-19 pandemic, which affected many people's mental health and physical health as well. What strategies did you suggest for coping with pandemic-related stresses?
That is a great question. So during the pandemic, we've seen that people were isolated, they were at home. People had a lot of time to think about things, and most people were panicking. They were overthinking, and even after the pandemic, we've seen some of the after effects remain. Like during the pandemic, we saw there was a spike in suicide rates, especially among young people, and that has continued. It did not stop after, like, say, the lockdowns ended and people are now physically moving around, but we still see a rise in suicides and mental health issues. What was good about the pandemic was that people paid attention to mental health and people talk about mental health a lot more, and now they're a bit more aware. But I feel that we're still not aware to the extent where we know what to do about our mental health conditions. One of the things that is a very telltale sign of bad mental health situations is that we all struggle with sleeping. So being aware of our sleep, and that not having enough sleep can actually cause mental health issues. It makes us cranky, it gets us stressed out. Our relationships suffer, our work suffers because we're not getting enough sleep. And this has not reduced even after the pandemic. So one of the things we that is very important to have good mental health is to have healthy lifestyles. It's very basic. Do exercise every day, go on a walk at least for half an hour, eat healthy. When we go to sleep, we're too addicted to social media and we keep our phones with us. Young people especially sleep with their phones beside them. That's also not a very good practice. So there, we even on our page, for example, we circulated about what kind of habits can help us sleep better or to pay attention to our sleeping, and then also kind of making sure that we have good social interactions. We're not too much on social media, which is always bad in whatever form. So restricting ourselves, being aware of where we are struggling, like there was a lot of terms that came out, and now we can at least identify what our problems is. So one thing is, for example, doom scrolling. People scroll through social media for hours, and they end up like wasting a lot of time. They get drained out, they compare their lives to other people, and everybody looks very successful and happy, and that depresses you because maybe your life is not like that, but actually no one's life is like that. So that kind of awareness is very important. So it is very important that we realize these things. And now that we're moving back into post-pandemic life, we can try not to go back to our bad habits, which was about like you know thinking too much about social media and having a good life outside. Because what we should learn from our experience during the pandemic is that there needs to be a balance, and that balance is something that young people can put think about in their lifestyle, and try to balance things out, restrict things that can cause addiction, like addiction to social media, for example.
I'm also a victim of being got addicted person of social media or phone. It takes a lot to just put your phone away and sleep. So I'm working on it.
It is. It's very
So
hard. It's even hard for me as well. But what I try to do is like put my phone on charge, and I make sure it's far away, as out of reach, so that even if I want to, I'll have to get out of the bed and go where it is to another room to find out if it's beeping or
yeah,
if there's any noise.
but
So it's
but
hard, but it's
again, it's sometimes so hard when your phone is in charger point and you can touch it. So I think it's the side effects of addiction.
it is very hard. So, but if we try to just stop using our social media altogether, that's not going to work. We need to do it in doses and make sure that we build up that capacity over time.
Okay. So if someone is seeking mental health support, what would you advise her to find the right resource or professionals?
So usually, if people are struggling to function, so a lot of times people misunderstand these signs. For example, people often use the word depression as if it's sadness, but depression and sadness are not the same thing. Sadness has a very clear reasoning behind it. So, say for example, I have a pet cat and it dies. That's it's very natural that I would be sad about that. But when you're depressed, it's usually there's no clear reasoning behind it. So, say somebody has low energy, they don't want to get out of bed, and they're not also sleeping, but they're very drained all the time. They have no interest in life. That's a sign of depression, especially if it consistently lasts for more than 2 weeks. So these things we need to notice and we need to observe, and then we can take steps. So the steps usually is that when you're struggling to function, and you're so sad and upset that you're struggling to function, that's when you need to go to a counselor, or you can reach out to a psychologist. And now there are a lot of pages, or even if you Google, you can find doctors or psychiatrists, and you can look for doctors and psychiatrists around you. And there's also a lot of affordable services at the National Institute of Mental Health, for example. And then there's also a lot of online counseling services. So but it is also not so easy to find a counselor or somebody that you are comfortable with. Not because you're going to have a conversation with the counselor. It's very important that you're comfortable and you can like sync with that person. So while it's hard, but there's still nowadays there's a lot of mental health services available to people. but it's all about reaching out. We still suffer so much from the stigma that we don't want to admit that, that I might need a counselor, and we think that if I need a counselor or I need counseling service, it means I've lost my mind or I'm crazy, which is not true at all. So it's something that we need to start being aware of, that it's more important to reach out before it becomes a severe mental illness. So if I feel like I need to talk to somebody and I have no one to talk to, you should feel free to talk to a counselor. It doesn't mean that you have a severe mental illness.
I agree on that. As in depression overcomer, I think we should seek help. It's get problematic, or if you want to share but you can't, but even it's hard, you should reach out for help before it going any severe problem.
Right.
Okay, ma'am, I have another question. What are your future plans for or visions for identity completion?
So now we've been providing psychosocial support through volunteers for a long time. We want to continue providing that service, but we want to reach more people. So we've been doing this for many years now, and we don't market it so much. We because we feel that this is something where we need to know that we're providing a useful service that is actually helpful to people. So we've been kind of been on pilot mode for a long time, but now that we're clear about what the service is, how we can provide the service, and we've seen a demand for it because there was no clear market for psychosocial support or community-based service. But now that there are more mental health services and there's more awareness raising services, now that people are a bit more aware, we feel that this is something we can market and we can talk to more people about, let more people about know about, and we're trying to do that a lot more. So we are reaching out through our social media pages, and we are talking about social determinants now. We're doing more research, and so that we have evidence to back our claims, to back our services. And now in the future, I hope that we can influence policies as well, because our policies are still not reflecting our needs, our mental health needs, as much as there needs to be. Like, we do have a new mental health act, but it's not a very functional law. There are no regulations about what kind of services people with mental illness can ask for, and what are their rights, how they can claim those rights. If people are discriminated based on mental health, what can they do about it? What can institutions do to support people with mental illness? Those things are still not clear in our policy. So we want to do a lot more policy advocacy as well. We also want to work with institutions so that they're aware. So even now, if you have a fever or a physical health condition, you can ask for leave. You can ask for sick leave from your school, from your university, but you still can't ask for a mental health leave. You still can't ask for leave because you have depression or you need a break because you're stressed out. Those things, there's no policy about for these things institutionally. There's no process for it institutionally. So we want to do more advocacy on these things, and working as consultants. We want to change those institutions to be more inclusive of mental health conditions.
Okay. So you have been working all these years for mental health. You can share some experience with us, or till now, how was your journey about it?
Sure. A lot of personal experience we can't share because we have to maintain confidentiality, and mental health issues are still a very stigmatized issue. But we have had people work with us, people with severe mental illness, even people who have been institutionalized, have worked in our organization in very serious positions, and they can actually function. So I think what we've seen is that there needs to be a way to be more inclusive, and society can be more inclusive if you accommodate people with disabilities or people with mental illness. If you have a system for it, you can support people, and it can empower them. So what I've seen is that yes, mental illness maybe is a condition that will not cannot be cured, but it can be managed. And people with mental illness can function in society. They can make decisions, and if they get adequate health care, if they get access to counseling, if they get access to psychosocial support, they can function and have a mainstream way of life. So our experiences tell us that also when young people are aware, and they have more personal experience with people with disabilities or mental illness, they understand it better, and they are willing to work on it and are willing to change society. And that we've also seen that society has changed. Now people are more aware of mental health issues, and they take it seriously. It's not enough, but it is. There has been changes, and changes incremental, but it is happening. And so I'm quite positive, and I feel that if we can work towards making our institutions inclusive and changing attitudes of people towards mental health issues, disability, then we can actually improve the quality of our lives a lot and prevent mental health conditions and conditions that result in things like suicide.
Yes, ma'am. So, can you tell me your opinions on what biggest challenges individuals face regarding mental health today, nowadays?
So essentially, there's a lot of norms and practices in society that kind of decreases people's confidence. And especially among young people, what we're seeing is there's not a lot of mental resilience around failure, around rejection, around loneliness, which are phenomenons that are increasing in society because of the way in which our societies are structured, because of the way in which we are working nowadays. Our social interactions are not deep, they're very surface level. So we have a lot more friends on social media, on Facebook, but we have very few meaningful conversations within each other, with each other. We have very few meaningful interactions in person, and that kind of leads to a lot of like misguided understanding or perceptions about ourselves and other people, and this can lead to frustrations as well. Among young people especially, and people are struggling to cope with these situations. But we're also seeing that even though these are challenges, though there's a flip side to that as well. Social media isn't all bad. It also gives us access to a lot of information. And so, if there are more spaces like our support group meetings or like identity inclusion where you can work as volunteers, then if there's more platforms like that, more people have access to those things, they can seek help and they can overcome those challenges. So, I'm very positive, and I think that's also part of what people can do and can help people. If they are positive and they feel like there are ways in which you can change society, then you can actually work through being more positive and having more confidence and working towards a more inclusive society.
I'm so glad, ma'am, that you started something like this. It can help many people, like from students to some normal working people who can't even go someone else to seek help or they don't even know they need help. So it is a great opportunity for people to explore this and help themselves. Okay, ma'am. Now let's make our life a little bit interesting. I have some rapid fire questions for you. So let's start.
Sure.
Okay. Who's your favorite person?
In my family, my favorite person is my twin sister.
Okay. You have a twin sister. Wow, that's
Yes, I have a
crazy.
twin sister. Yes.
Okay. Any favorite quotes?
Favorite
Uh,
author?
favorite quotes? Like the
Favorite.
one
Did you say quote?
any
I couldn't hear you.
sentence.
Sorry.
I said quote, man. Quotes.
Quotes.
Yeah.
A famous saying.
The famous saying. Yeah, the famous saying.
Right. So one of my favorite saying is it is a saying by Martin Luther King Jr., who was a revolutionary of the civil rights movements in the U.S., who um, fought for equality among for black people, and he said a movement that only moves people is a revolt, but a movement that changes both people and institutions is a revolution. And so that quote really stuck with me. And I was thinking, whenever I work, this is always at the back of my mind that if I'm only changing people and they're only speaking among themselves, that's not really change. That's not a revolution. A revolution really happens when institutions change as well. That's one of my favorite quotes. Yes.
Okay. So who's the writer?
Again, among my family, there's a lot of women. We're a family of one father, one mother, and four sisters, and so it's mostly women that I admire in my family. Like my mother is a woman I really admire. She's and my second elder sister and my eldest sister as well. They're all kind of like my idols, actually.
Okay, you're playing very safe, man.
Yeah, I'm very
Winter,
fond of my family.
okay. So winter or summer?
When did I what?
Or summer.
Winter, summer. I like summer more actually.
Okay, ma'am. So what's your favorite color?
Black.
Okay, any music band or any singer you like most?
So in terms of Bangla songs, I like Ornob's songs a lot. Like Ornob is one of my favorite artists, musicians. Bappa Muzumdar is also one of my favorites. Um, in terms of English music, the most recent is I think I'm very old school, so I like rock bands of the past, and so U2, Metallica, all of those. But recently I think I like Imagine Dragons, and I also like Coldplay. So those two are my favorite.
Any Korean band?
No, I'm not so fond of BTS. Sorry, can't relate to this generation so much.
Okay, ma'am. No issues. So any favorite?
Favorite book.
Yeah.
So, in terms of classics, one of my favorite classic writers, Chinua Achebe. He's a Nigerian post-colonial writer, and one of my favorite books that he wrote was is Things Fall Apart. And recently, I've also been reading another classic by Dostoevsky. It's called Crime and Punishment, and I actually liked it, but it's a very heavy book.
Okay, ma'am. Any favorite dish or food?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Any
Favorite what?
favorite food?
Food. I like fuchka, and I like ice cream and chocolates and cakes. I'm a foodie, so I like most food. Yeah,
Very beautiful thing to say. Like I love food.
I love fuchka. Yes,
Bengali culture actually.
yeah.
Do you like comedy or drama?
Comedy. If I have to choose between those two, I would choose comedy. But I mostly like fantasy and action, actually.
Your favorite pastime?
Reading and traveling. I like traveling a lot. So I plan trips and I would like to visit all the countries of the world someday.
So, do you have movie?
Favorite what?
Movie.
Movie. Okay. There's many, actually. I like a very old movie called Life is Beautiful. Another one of my favorite, which is a psychological thriller, is Instinct. Um, that's also one of my favorite movies. And among Bangla movies, I like Hero Kraja Deshe, that movie, and then some of Humayun Ahmed's movies as well. But I can't recall um, any one off the top of my head right now. But yeah.
Okay, ma'am. It was great. Can you tell us something about our mental health? What can we do, or what you advise us to do in our vulnerable situations when we are locked in our mind, can't do anything or think about the right thing? How can we survive that moment?
Yes. So when we're down or we're depressed, I think it really helps to be self-aware, to try to think differently. So you'll see a lot of mental health advice around meditating, for example, or doing yoga. And what it does, it distracts you from whatever current thought that is overpowering you or making you feel bad. And one thing that people can do is to do things that not only helps oneself but helps others as well. I think at the start of our conversation, we were talking about can we help others when we're feeling down ourselves, and it really helps to help other people when you're struggling. So if you are struggling in any way, first of all, do reach out to others and try to talk about your feelings as openly and honestly as possible. And sometimes you will find that people are understanding. We often think that people are not understanding, but uh, if you know somebody who you think you can trust or who is open, please do reach out and talk to them about your feelings. You can also journal. I think journaling also helps us when we're going through anxiety and there's too many thoughts in our minds. We can, if we write it down, then we can organize those thoughts. We read through it and we understand the process that we're going through. So writing in details about our feelings really helps us kind of process whatever we're going through, the pain, the frustration, rejection, failure, that all of that, it really helps to write down our feelings clearly, um, and also in communicating. The other thing is that one way in which we support each other is also to observe others and also be observant of our own emotions. And so, even noticing how we feel specifically about things that we identify as negative feelings, what makes us feel negative, what makes us feel positive, and moving towards positive feelings or things that make us feel good. Like say for example, if you are very sad, and if you're like me who likes fuchka, you can, and you're going through a bad time, I usually go on walks or I go and have fuchka and I feel better. So knowing what makes me feel better usually helps. Like if I know in my head this can improve my mood, talking to somebody who I'm comfortable with will improve my mood. That helps actually. So that helps me kind of calm down. It helps me do things that makes me feel better.
I can't stop talking with you. It's like so much to know from you. It's feeling so great after having the certain words that I or other people want to hear, and it's feeling very, very refreshing. But it's late. We took you a lot of time, so I think we should have to end our show today here. So thank you very much for being here with us. Just made it very, very special. YSSE, and I wish you very well for your future and your program. And
I'm
thank
glad
you,
if
audience.
I'm useful. I'm glad if what I said was useful to anybody, and I just wanted to end with also that we run support group meetings, and these are almost free, so anybody can register with 100 taka. They can register and join our support group meetings for any kind of support that you need. You don't have to be diagnosed with a mental illness. There is going to be a mental health professional at those meetings. So if you're struggling in any way, please do reach out. And one of the ways is through our page and through the support group meetings.
I think, ma'am, anyone's gonna ask for help. Many people like me, especially I think me, I'm gonna apply for it for the course for supporter. So I
Sure.
think people will join you. So
Yeah.
and that's it for the day. And thank you, audience, for your presence. See you soon with a new episode. Until then, keep yourself well and be wisely. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, YSSE, and thank you, Sadia, for being such a wonderful host.
You're welcome.